When I give some input text, it will
relentlessly torture Toriel.
Let's use this to create Deltarune Chapter 3 before it releases. And forget Snowgrave, that's for little kids.
This story is where the carnage is.
Last time, Toriel had a mental breakdown because her mother died. And now space pirate Narlik has even more bad news. Susie watched Narlik come closer. I thought he was following the amigo. Narlik reached the others and needed to catch his breath after running so much. Narlik! Amethyst shouted. Why are you here? He was visibly shaking.
The portal was a trap. It didn't lead to Voss.
Toriel was concerned and said, You said you would protect my little brother. What is going on? As Narlik's breathing got slower, his face was becoming grim.
They were ambushed by one of those monsters. There was nothing I could do.
Toriel's mind shut down. She had just accepted her mother's sudden death, and now Narlik told her shortly after that her brother died as well. This was too much for her to bear. She was abruptly brought out of her deep depression. Her grief-stricken eyes were filled with pain. But you said you were there to protect him. Toriel jumped to her feet. Go back to Voss. I will do it myself. Toriel slapped the air to start the portal. He had to go back. Toriel! Amethyst screamed at the sight of her mother's reaction. Her pain and her surroundings were causing her to shake in rage. I'm going to make it right. I need your help. She ran off. Narlik saw Amethyst run away from him. The AI is trying to make Amethyst Toriel's daughter again, but I'm not buying into that. That makes no sense. Toriel ran at the wall where the portal once was. She held a sword in each hand. She began bashing her way into the wall and screaming as she did. The wall began to cave in and Toriel fell into darkness. Wow, she's in beast mode. A mere wall can't stop her now. It's crazy that her weapons are still swords, very coherent. But for some reason she has two now. Toriel was fuming mad, going berserk. She threw herself through the portal leading to the monster that killed her little brother. Amethyst had trouble catching up to her. On the other side, Toriel quickly spotted the giant blood-smeared monster, but she knew no fear. All she wanted was vengeance. Armed with her two swords, she was ready to slice that beast into many pieces. She shouted at him. Toriel cut down the monster with one swift move. Oh, don't mess with Toriel. All of them were both surprised by the power and purity of Toriel's swords. It was in the real world, but it still felt as though they were not. The mother was struggling to breathe. Her fists were balled so tight that her knuckles were white. Like always. She had to get her to calm down. Honey, it's okay now. I know it was an accident. Look at that. That giant thing is dead now. Her voice was soothing, but it was hard to believe. A mauling of the monster turned into a slice with a sword. It was over in seconds. Toriel was breathing heavily. She didn't understand. It should not be that easy. She did not want to understand. She can't even grasp how overpowered she suddenly is. It even sounds as if she's a little scared of herself. I'm not quite sure whether Toriel talked to her brother in her head there or whether Amethyst was talking to Toriel. I think Toriel calling the amigo honey is more plausible. Toriel couldn't control her immense power. In her endless rage, she had killed the giant monster that had eaten her son. Her two swords were soaked in blood. Amethyst was shocked. How did Toriel, the sweet empathetic mother, suddenly turn into an unstoppable fighter? She knew that losing two loved ones can do crazy things with one's mind, but Toriel was on a whole different level. Amethyst wondered whether this killing strike would quench Toriel's desire for revenge. She observed Toriel, who was breathing erratically. Toriel opened her eyes slowly. She gazed around the destroyed village. She found herself staring at an enormous bloodstain. It looked so vast and so overwhelming that even Toriel was reluctant to step onto it. Toriel stood up slowly and ran. She tore through the bushes, the trees and the broken ruins. She came to the edge of the bloodstain and fell to her knees. Toriel looked up. Her hair was soaked in blood. Tears streamed down her face. She noticed something underneath her. It was a human body. She sat back on her heels. Was this an omen? Amethyst rushed forward to check on Toriel. She noticed that her body was covered in scars. The thickest scar on her head stretched almost the length of the vampire sword. The area between her eyes was heavily bruised and covered in tears. I guess that big scar is from when her head was split open. Oh, Toriel! No. As the tears began to fall, Amethyst realized that this was all too much for her to handle. She felt the strength draining from her body. She knew this was the end. She was the last. The monsters would no longer need to fight for survival. They would have conquered the world. Even so, she didn't want to go. She didn't want to leave Toriel behind. She didn't want to die. She didn't want to lose the last living thing she had left in the world. She turned around. She wanted to spend the rest of her life with Toriel. Her desire for survival and to live with Toriel was worth whatever came next. But she couldn't let Toriel suffer. If she couldn't help Toriel, she would be the last living thing in the world. Amethyst picked up Toriel and carried her back to her home. A lot to uncover here. I think with world they mean this area beyond the portal. Sounds like the monster had killed everyone who lived there. Brutal. It's probably the smartest decision for Amethyst to stay with killing machine Toriel for protection. While Amethyst was carrying Toriel back to her home, Susie met up with them. She noticed Toriel's immense wounds. The scars, the blood, the tears. Susie was rarely ever shocked by anything, but this was a bit too much. What the hell happened? She screamed bewilderedly. Amethyst, who had trouble breathing with Toriel and her heavy arm on her back, tried to respond. It was unbelievable. Toriel killed that enormous beast with one sword slice. She was unstoppable. But we were too late to save anyone. The monster destroyed everything. They may have already started their conquest. Toriel looked over at her fallen companion and tried to comfort her. Don't you remember? I'm supposed to be a protector. When the time comes, I'll be the one to bring the monsters back to the nest. I'll save everyone. That is what I'm supposed to do, Toriel pleaded. Susie had a weak stomach for gore. As if. All she could do was nod and try to mask her repulsion with a look of sorrow. After a few moments of agonizing silence, Susie finally said, I'm sorry. The gesture confused Toriel. She then told Susie about the castle. There would be more battles to come. No clue what castle she is talking about. We had a similar moment with Asriel and AI Tale though. Back at Toriel's home, Amethyst placed her down on the couch. There, you need some rest, Toriel. Susie, can you bring us some water? Sure. Susie scurried to the kitchen sink. Amethyst looked at Toriel's blood-drenched body. The fur began to get very sticky. Where did you get that power from? Amethyst asked. I don't know, Toriel answered. When I realized that my brother had been eaten by those monsters, my body was overrun by such an immense anger. I wasn't really thinking from that point on. It was just... She started to cry again. Pure hatred. Toriel's nose started running as well. I couldn't control it. I only wanted to slash that beast with my swords. She had trouble breathing. I became the thing I was trying to kill. Susie came back with a bucket full of water. Let's clean you up a bit. Amethyst was shocked that she didn't say anything about how horrible the situation was. In fact, she didn't even bring it up. Was it because she wanted to put it off? Well, she would have to talk to her about this at some point. After cleaning her up, Toriel sat back down on the couch. She had more questions. Amethyst, is Susie your friend? Yeah, why? She's an orphan like me, but you two seem to get along well. We get along all right. She actually did seem to have a lot in common. So many similarities in their lives, she thought. Oh, you'll get to meet him tomorrow, Amethyst. Toriel turned to face her as she brought the bottle of water to Toriel's lips. She stood up and went to her bedroom to sleep. Him. There's one person who wanted to show up the next morning. That could be interesting. And now we know that both Susie and Amethyst are orphans. In the last part, we already learned that Susie's mother had died when she was young. Maybe when the AI said that Toriel is Amethyst's mother, it meant an adopting mother. It seems like Toriel adopts anyone who is alone, which is so in character. And given Susie's backstory in Deltarune, it's a possibility that she really is an orphan in the real game. Everything seems to come together. While Amethyst and Susie were sleeping in the living room, Toriel was alone in her bed, unable to calm down. She hadn't fully processed the deaths of her mother and brother, and it kept her awake throughout the night. While she was sleeping, the shades had gotten drawn across the windows, and the sun was streaming in, waking Toriel up. She sat up and noticed she had gotten quite a bit of sleep, which was a nice change, even though she had gotten extremely little sleep last night. Toriel looked out of her room into the dining room and noticed the dining room table was empty, so she went out into the kitchen to make breakfast. She started the stove and put on some pancakes before sitting down at the table. She felt rather tired, so she took a quick break to get a bottle of orange juice out of the fridge.
Did you miss me?
Toriel turned around and saw Chris's evil version crouching on the kitchen table. He grinned menacingly.
I told you I would come back to haunt you, Toriel.
She clenched her hand.
I would recommend that you do not make me angry,
Toriel said.
Yeah, she could shred you into a million pieces if she wanted,
remarked Susie, who had just entered the room.
So you better tell us where the dark fountain is located, Chris.
He was visibly annoyed by their statements. Chris swung around his tail, ready to attack. Toriel rolled out of the way, managing to avoid his attack. She concentrated and pointed towards the dark side window of the fridge.
Chris, you can't see me, I can see you,
said Toriel.
Nah, what a joke, I can see you all.
You mean the dark energy you have been channeling through a dark object for the past 2 hours?
Asked Toriel. He nodded.
Well, not anymore.
Toriel raised a brow.
You didn't think I would let you get away with it, did you? She asked.
Yeah, I did. Chris said as he walked towards the dark side of the room.
What's that in the corner?
It's an ordinary refrigerator, said Toriel.
I don't think the fridge is important, but it's interesting that Chris has a tail, just like Frisk did in AI Tale.
What is going on? Why are you fighting?
Amethyst awoke from the noises coming out of the kitchen.
It's getting pretty crowded. Making Toriel scream in front of an audience sounds like fun,
Chris said in a deranged way. Toriel and Susie tried to coordinate their moves to capture Chris. Susie hissed,
"Tell us where the dark fountain is or else."
Toriel nearly fell over on the ground from all the pressure.
Gah!
She cried.
I'm not fighting with this pathetic human,
Chris said. He walked up to Toriel with the Mickey Mouse bandage.
Here goes nothing,
he said. Chris took out his claws and slashed at Toriel.
Here I go,
he said. Chris ran towards the kitchen and looked at Toriel.
Hello?
He said in a very frightened voice.
Well, he did,
Toriel said. She screamed and went to where Chris was standing. She swung her bag of hearts at him. He stared at Toriel in fear.
What's going on?
Chris asked.
Stop fighting with me or else,
Toriel said. She let out a devastatingly long and heavy sigh.
I see. That's alright then,
Chris said in a childish voice. He picked up some fruit and took a bite out of it. Toriel glared at Chris for a moment.
What are you waiting for?
She asked. Toriel ran up to Chris and slammed him into the floor. Chris got up and jumped on Toriel's back. Toriel screamed in fear. He put his tail around Toriel's neck and forced her to look into his eyes. Toriel looked up at Chris.
Did you really think I was going to play this round?
Chris asked.
Ah!
Toriel exclaimed.
I should have known,
Chris said as he put his claws in Toriel's back. Ouch, Chris is savage. Toriel fell to the ground. Chris got up and went over to Susie, and Susie got up. They were staring into each other's eyes.
Alright then,
Chris said. He and Susie hugged each other. The first one to kiss has won, Chris said.
Alright then,
Chris said. He walked up to Toriel.
well, it looks like you're my trophy now.
Chris said.
Not so fast.
Toriel said. She grabbed Chris by the tail.
Listen to me.
Toriel said. She cut his tail off. Wow, she's just as brutal.
You are an ugly half dog.
The end.
You are not going anywhere,
Toriel said.
You will regret what you just did.
Chris said. He took the cut tail and put it in his head.
You'll regret it, mark my words.
Chris said. Chris walked over to Susie and got on her shoulders. He pushed down on her stomach. Toriel saw this and came towards him.
You're still going to regret what you're going to do to me,
Toriel said. She grabbed his face. Chris struggled.
I told you I wasn't going anywhere,
Chris said. He threw his head down towards Toriel.
Ah!
Toriel cried out in pain. As Chris was buried into her, is he digging into her flesh like a parasite? Disgusting!
Final crisis!
Toriel shouted. Chris began to maul Toriel.
I'm not going to let you!
Toriel cried out in agony. She grabbed him by the neck and kept pulling him deeper. No, you need to pull him out, not make him go even deeper. Chris's legs began to flinch. Toriel fell into the floor. She was starting to lose consciousness.
You died too.
Chris shouted in anger.
What? He knows!
He knows that Toriel was supposed to die in the forest. This is so crazy. Chris threw his body at Toriel. Toriel moved aside just in time.
Why would you do this to me?
Toriel cried out in pain. Chris got up and began to claw Toriel. He didn't care. Toriel screamed in agony.
Ah, yes,
Chris said. He took a hold of Toriel's neck and threw her.
Fuck!
Toriel yelled out. I can't. My face hurts. I'm crying so much.
Well, looks like this is over,
Chris said. He ran back into the kitchen. Toriel was standing in the middle of the room. She was completely covered in a layer of blubber and dirt. The room was covered in blood. A small fragment of what looked like Chris's neck was stuck in the ceiling. Toriel walked over to the piece of bone and picked it up. She put it in her pocket and walked towards the door.
I'm really glad you're not here anymore,
Toriel said. She opened the door. She was surrounded by darkness. She shut the door and the darkness surrounded her.
I'm not going anywhere,
Toriel said. She began to cry.
I'll miss you,
Toriel said. Oh, she's probably talking to her brother in her head. She took her arm off the door. She turned around and walked back to the couch. She sat down in a fetal position.
I guess this is the end,
Toriel said. Toriel put her hand over her eyes and began to rock back and forth.
I'm sorry that you couldn't see what I was. I knew you wouldn't understand,
Toriel said. Her tears began to flow.
I wish I had been different,
Toriel said.
I wish I had been able to protect you,
Toriel said. But it can't get any worse, right? Right? Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. YouTube only showed the last part for 13 hours, which is beyond stupid, and you definitely don't want to miss the next part. That one is going to be super crazy. And now you may be thinking, how is there so much of this video left? Well, it turns out that when I first generated the text for this episode, I completely forgot about Evil Chris. It took quite a while until I realized my mistake, and now there's a lot of unused text. But instead of throwing it away, enjoy this super long outtake. Did you get some sleep? Amethyst asked.
Not much, but it's better than nothing,
Toriel replied, trying to put a smile on her tired face. Susie was eager to go outside.
Yesterday was rough, but we still need to find the dark fountain.
Toriel's eyes lit up.
I almost forgot that Chris is still trapped in the fountain. I'm such a terrible mother.
Amethyst shook her head.
You are a great, compassionate mother, Toriel. Yesterday was simply too much. You did everything you could.
Susie nodded.
This time we'll succeed and save everybody.
Toriel stood up.
You are right. I won't let another sibling die.
The three of them returned to Gru's forest to search for clues where the dark fountain might be. Susie was eager to start the search.
If we can find dark fountain, we can find Chris.
The sun shined brightly. As they entered the forest, the three of them were surprised at the dense forest.
When I came here, I thought this place was pretty simple,
Amethyst said.
Of course it's simple. It's Gru's forest,
Susie answered. Amethyst smiled.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. This forest is a tourist hotspot. Here we'll find everything we're looking for,
Toriel said, opening a path with her staff.
I have no clue where the dark fountain is. Let's go.
The three of them walked around. As they walked, Toriel, Amethyst and Susie noticed many common items. A metal fork, a cheese grater, a ladder, an egg slicer and even a dish with fried tofu on top. Toriel giggled.
Did you know this place is packed with tourist items?
I don't think so, Amethyst replied. As the three of them continued to walk, the sky became darker and darker.
Hey, is that thunder?
Amethyst asked. The three of them looked at the sky. A bolt of lightning made a loud crack, and then a small explosion occurred.
Oh shit, is it going to rain?
The three of them hurried to find shelter, but not even a tree was left standing.
Look at that,
Amethyst said, pointing at a cave.
Let's go to the cave,
Susie said. They ran to the cave. When they entered it, they were surprised to see many different human and monster statues inside. They walked closer and suddenly they saw a beautiful woman standing in front of them. She wore a long green dress with long white gloves. Her hair was a deep red and her eyes were blue. She was looking at them with her hungry eyes.
That is the statue of the goddess,
Toriel said. Amethyst looked at her, shocked.
What's she looking at?
You two.
Oh my god,
Amethyst said.
I thought she was just a statue. She's not just a statue,
Toriel said, pushing Amethyst's fear aside.
She's extremely hungry and would love a meal right now.
Amethyst's eyes widened.
I think I'm getting hungry too.
The trio looked at the statue.
There's no way we're going to survive if the goddess is hungry,
Susie spoke.
She could be in danger.
Toriel took Amethyst's hand.
Let's go.
Amethyst's eyes glowed brightly.
Do not let the goddess see you,
Toriel smiled.
She has been waiting for you. Come on.
The three of them walked forward.
Be ready,
Toriel whispered.
I want you to hold my hand.
What do you mean? Amethyst asked.
You and I must fight for our lives.
We are in the goddess's forests, aren't we? How can we fight? Amethyst asked.
If we run, she will catch up to us.
But she has been very far away the entire time.
You and I will be fine. We have the goddess's blessing,
Toriel said, pushing Amethyst into Toriel's side. Toriel held Amethyst's hand to prevent her from making sudden movements out of fear. They were slowly walking towards the statue of the goddess.
Stay calm and she won't attack us,
Toriel whispered.
I have the feeling she can help us with where to find the Black Fountain, but we need to show her respect.
Susie, who was further behind, didn't want to go any deeper into this cave.
What the heck is Toriel thinking?
She said to herself. After going a few steps, Toriel stepped in front of a pedestal. She then slid down from the platform.
It's there,
Toriel said to Amethyst.
Just follow me.
She then disappeared in the darkness.
Toriel,
Amethyst said. She waited for her to come back.
Toriel?
She waited for a few more minutes, and when she didn't get any response, she decided to keep going on her own. She took a deep breath before stepping onto the pedestal.
How are we supposed to get this?
She asked Toriel.
You need to hold onto my staff,
Toriel said. What? Amethyst exclaimed. She looked around for the staff. Toriel, where is it? It's in front of me, Toriel said. How? Amethyst was in shock. I need you to trust me. Toriel took her hand and began to disappear. Amethyst was forced to touch the staff. Amethyst picked up the staff from the pedestal, but before she could turn around, the floor shook, and Amethyst fell off the pedestal and onto the ground. Well, 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 Amethyst is finally awake, said a voice. Amethyst looked up to see someone taller and older than her. Hello? Amethyst said in fear. I told you, Amethyst, the creature that stood in front of her said. We are nothing to worry about. That's true, Amethyst said. Then come with me, child, the creature said. It is not safe for you here. With the goddess statue's magic, Toriel had transformed into a different creature. Amethyst was scared, but she trusted Toriel enough to follow her deeper into the cave.
What the hell?
Susie shouted in her head.
What kind of crap have I gotten myself into?
We'll never know. That's where the outtake ends. But the other story with Evil Chris is much cooler anyways. See you in the next video.